Hey y'all, hey, and welcome back to another session of Meditations with Marigny. So this morning I kind of want to do a follow-up to, I think it was the morning of prayer and meditation where I was talking about the scripture. And on that video, I actually said Second Corinthians. When I went back and listened to it, I said Second Corinthians, and it's actually Second Chronicles, and it's chapter 7, verse 14. And it's a common verse, the verse that simply says, "If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray, and seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven, I will forgive their sin, and I will heal their land." And I wanted to kind of circle back to this because I remember that morning I was talking about God being a God of a second chance. And so it is early morning. It's now 6:44. And as you can see, I'm already up and dressed. I've been up, I guess I was up around 4 o'clock this morning. And 4:30, somewhere in there is when I first got up, and then I went ahead and got on up, took my shower because I knew I had some assignments I was trying to map out. I have one that's due tomorrow, and then I think one that's due on Friday. So, I was thinking about God being a God of a second chance. And I got up this morning, came in, and I was preparing myself to do some assignments. Well, I saw that one of my professors had graded my other assignment, and I'm doing really well in this class. I think I almost have a 100 score, maybe an 80 on one of my tests. And so when I looked at the assignment, I had zero for 60 points. And so I said, wait a minute, zero for 60. And basically, she gave me a notation, and she just told me, she said, "Hey, this lesson was about this. You wrote about, you gave me an answer for this." And then she gave me some guided instructions on perhaps you need to look at this location right here and see if you can then resubmit. So she gave me the opportunity to resubmit the assignment. Now, what that means is I may not get the full credit, which I don't care. I'd take any credit over just zero. And so, based upon that information, I am now going to take that information and go back and do something differently. Well, when we think about this scripture, if my people, which are called by my name, this scripture is giving instructions, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways. Then will I hear from heaven, and I will forgive their sin, and I will heal their land. And in the midst of that, I'm going to give you some instructions. Can you click like? Can you share this with a friend? And can you gently subscribe to my channel if you already aren't a subscriber? So when we look at this scripture, I was just reading what Google said, and it just talked about this scripture is speaking of God's promise of hearing, forgiving, and healing for those who humble themselves, pray, seek his face, and turn from their wicked ways. It says it implies a specific group of people who identify with God are called to a higher standard of conduct. I'm going to let that sit right there for a second. Remember the other day I was saying, and it was just amazing to me how God showed me this component. I've read that scripture so many times, but when we talk about if my people, we got my people. Like you walk up to folks and you like, you my people, you my person, you my this, you my that. That means that we identify them, but we also take ownership and relationship with them. That also means that we are saying that we are connected to them. We have an opening, or there is a doorway to them that some other people may not have. So when I kind of looked at the breakdown that Google gave of this scripture, one of the parts that really caught my attention, caught my attention was the part when it says, "Will humble themselves and pray." and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways. And Google basically says this outlines the conditions for receiving God's blessings. Yeah, think about that. We want the blessings of the Lord, but we don't want the conditions that go along with it. When it comes to relationships, what I kind of thought about when I first saw my professor's information, I was getting ready to make this video, and I was going to go in one direction, and then I thought about it, and I said, isn't that just how some of our relationships were? Like, we really thought that we were doing the right thing. When I turned in that assignment, I thought I turned in the right thing. But after having the comments and the feedback from my professor, I learned that I wasn't doing the right thing. I learned that even though my heart posture was in the right place and I thought that I had everything taken care of, I realized that I still had it all wrong. Well, isn't that the same way it is in some of our relationships? We may have given everything that we had in that marriage. We may have given everything that we had in that relationship. And we might have been doing it the way that we thought was the best way for it to be done. But what we have to understand and realize is that we didn't have the correct information for that relationship in order to get a successful grade. When we think about those of us that are I read somewhere yesterday, and they were asking like, what, why aren't you in the dating pool? And I remember I wrote something like, there are so many merry-go-rounds on the playground, and since people have a choice of which merry-go-round that they can get on, they just get on one and hop off and get on another, and they hop off and they get on another. And I'm just really not that kind of girl, so I just had to come out of the playground, come out of that dating realm. And I am strongly considering getting back in it, but in a different way this time. And so when we think about our opportunities for dating, how does that look now? Because many of us have already gone through, relational situations. How do you know that you can try it again and get the message that I got from my professor? She said, you may resubmit this assignment with the corrected standards and specific learning goal. So that means that she's given me a second chance. How many of you know that you have to believe God that there is a second chance? How many of you know that you have to believe God sometimes that there's a third chance? I had to really come to terms with, I was speaking with a girlfriend last night and had to come to terms with the fact that one of the things she and I were talking about is that I would probably still be married if my marriage had not had so many compounded circumstances. It's one thing when you go through one situation. You go through a cheating situation. It's another thing you go through a financial situation. It's another thing you go through a situation where somebody might have a gambling issue, or you go through a situation where she has a spending problem, or you go through a situation where she may have stepped out of the relationship. But when you have multiple compounding situations, it is difficult for that marriage to sustain. And it's difficult for any one person to be able to do that because they're not able to resubmit the assignment with the corrected standards and goals. We all have standards. We all have expectations. And so we have to figure out how we're going to look at following the conditions that go along with those standards and those goals. So this was just a quick jump on this morning before I get ready to head out. And I just wanted to come on and say that, God is a God of a second chance. He will allow you to resubmit. So if you messed up the first time, go back, find the right answer, seek his face, turn from your wicked ways. And then that part that talked about God's people are more accountable than those that don't know. So just make sure that you're doing your part when it comes to that. All right, y'all. Have a good day. Click like, share it with a friend, and I would love for you to subscribe. And meet me Thursday nights at 9 p.m. on Facebook and Instagram Live for Meditations with Marigny. Bye.